talk about achieving a goal,
Yeah.
we almost always default to the language of the hunt.
Oh, absolutely. It is all about the chase.
Right. We say we're going to track down a lead or pursue a dream. We chase success. It is a vocabulary that is entirely built around pursuit.
Yeah, and think about what that implies, right? It implies that the thing you want is out there in the wild, actively running away from you.
Like it is trying to escape.
Exactly. It sets up this really predatory framing of ambition. Your goals are these elusive, frightened creatures, and it requires total exhaustion to capture them.
And there's this brutal underlying anxiety to that. I mean, think about your own life right now.
Oh, for sure.
How many times have you felt that if you do not run fast enough or if you do not hustle hard enough, the prize is just going to escape into the brush?
Yeah, so you end up sending 50 emails a day.
Right, forcing connections, trying to drag an outcome toward you by the sheer brute force of your own will.
We have built an entire global culture around this perpetual, breathless sprint. The assumption is that motion equals progress, and exhaustion is just, well, it is the required tax for success.
But then you step into the world of the source material we are unpacking today for this deep dive, and suddenly that entire paradigm is just flipped on its head.
Completely inverted.
Yeah, you realize that you might not just be running at the wrong speed, but you are running in the completely wrong paradigm altogether.
Which is a terrifying but incredibly liberating thought.
It really is. So today we have this stack of incredibly rare, highly conceptual, esoteric notes on the table. We are diving into an underground philosophical document titled The Martinist Revelation and the Magnetic Mainline.
It is quite the title.
It is. And our mission here is to decode what seems, on the surface at least, like a strange little interaction in a room. But it actually reveals the hidden mechanical architecture of how we seek and attract what we want in life.
Yeah, the material centers around a profoundly intricate philosophical and acoustic journey. And it is led by a figure named Helios.
Right.
And in the context of these documents, he is referred to as the mad philosopher and also the commander of the 501 Empire.
I love those titles so much. I mean, they sound like they belong in a graphic novel or something.
They really do.
But this deep dive is going to take us to the very real intersection of esoteric frameworks, rigorous physical labor, and perhaps the strangest part of all, acoustic reality.
Yeah, the acoustic part always throws people.
It threw me. But we are going to fundamentally rethink the basic physics of searching. So let's start at the foundation. The entire architecture of this text rests on one highly specific, high-vibration encounter.
The meeting at the Rosicrucian Center.
Exactly. We are placed at a Rosicrucian Center. Helios meets with a master who is simply referred to as Martinist. But before we even get to the interaction, we probably need a quick, Blinkist-level definition here.
That is a good idea.
For someone who hasn't spent years digging through occult history, what exactly are we talking about when we say a Rosicrucian Center and a Martinist?
Right. That context is vital to understand the stakes. So Rosicrucianism is a philosophical secret society. It first emerged in the early 17th century.
Okay.
It is heavily focused on mysticism, alchemy, and sacred geometry. So essentially, it is the pursuit of hidden knowledge regarding the spiritual and physical laws of the universe.
So they are studying the literal mechanics of reality.
Precisely. And then Martinism is a related but distinct esoteric tradition. It focuses heavily on the concept that humanity has fallen from a divine state.
Right.
And because of that, we must actively work to reintegrate or return to our original elevated spiritual condition.
Reintegrate. Okay, we are definitely going to come back to that word later.
Oh, absolutely. So when the text places Helios in a Rosicrucian Center meeting a Martinist master, it is setting the stage in a literal laboratory of human consciousness.
Right. These aren't just guys chatting in a coffee shop.
No, not at all. They are individuals deeply initiated into the mechanics of spiritual physics.
Okay, that paints a very different picture of the room. So Helios, our mad philosopher, walks up to this Martinist master, and he delivers what the document calls a master-level joke.
Yes.
He looks the master dead in the eye and simply says, "I want to be like you."
And it's just such a brilliant setup.
Yeah.
Because it operates entirely on a false premise, and both men are acutely aware of it.
Okay, wait, I don't buy that yet. Let me put myself in that room. If a novice walks up to a mentor and says, "I want to be like you," that is just a standard compliment.
Sure, for a novice.
Right. So why is it suddenly considered a master-level joke just because Helios has advanced knowledge? Honestly, that sounds a bit arrogant, like they have their own little private club of irony.
I get why it sounds that way, but you are assuming the intent is mockery. It is actually an inside joke about the illusion of separation.
The illusion of separation, what do you mean?
Well, when a true novice says, I want to be like you, they mean it literally. They want to mimic the master's outer form, their daily habits, their social status, all of that.
We want the master's life.
Exactly. They are trying to put on the master's clothes because they feel empty inside. But when someone at Helios's level of initiation says it, he is playing a character. He is presenting a cliche to see if Martinist will respond to the superficial words, or if he will look underneath them. It is a test of recognition.
Okay, so he is throwing out this generic fortune cookie setup to see if the master gives him generic fortune cookie advice in return.
Exactly that. He is testing the depth of the water.
And the master does not take the bait.
Not even a little bit.
Martinist doesn't fall for the joke at all. Instead, the text notes that he recognizes the frequency of the man standing before him.
Yeah.
And, I really want to linger on that word, frequency.
It is a crucial word.
Because it is thrown around a lot of New Age circles, right?
Yeah.
But here it feels highly technical.
It is very technical.
Huh.
Think about resonance in literal physical science. If you have two tuning forks calibrated to the exact same pitch, and you strike one so it begins to ring.
Right, it vibrates.
Yeah, it vibrates. You can place the other tuning fork all the way across the room, and it will spontaneously begin to vibrate and hum.
Oh, wow, just from the sound waves.
Exactly. It is responding to the frequency moving through the air. So in human interaction, true communication in a highly developed state bypasses the spoken word almost entirely.
So the words are just noise.
Right. The words, I want to be like you, are just crude sound waves. But the energetic resonance, the micro-expressions, the posture, the absolute calm of the nervous system underneath those words, that tells Martinist everything he needs to know.
So he doesn't hear the joke. He feels the tuning fork.
Perfectly said. He feels the tuning fork.
Okay, let's unpack this. Martinist bypasses the humor. He looks at Helios, registers that frequency, and delivers this absolute core law of natural science. He says what you are looking for is looking for you.
He completely shatters the premise of the joke.
He really does.
Helios jokingly projected his desire outward onto another person. I want to be like you. Martinist redirects that energy instantly.
Right.
He's essentially saying, stop looking outward. The thing you are seeking is already turning its gaze toward you.
That one sentence completely neutralizes the entire hunting metaphor we talked about at the beginning.
Absolutely.
If the thing I am looking for is actively looking for me, then chasing it is completely irrational.
It makes no sense.
It is like running around a house looking for someone who is actively walking towards you.
Yeah.
You are probably just going to miss each other in the hallways.
Yeah, you are creating chaos instead of connection.
But the source doesn't just leave this as poetry, though. It defines this mathematically. It calls it the Law of Reciprocal Seeking.
Yes. The Law of Reciprocal Seeking dictates that the object of your ambition, whether it is a business empire, a creative breakthrough, or even a state of internal peace, is not a separate, passive object sitting in the distance waiting to be captured.
It is part of the same circuit. That is the exact phrase used in the text. A single circuit. I was really trying to visualize this when reading the notes.
It can be tricky to conceptualize.
Yeah, like it is not a hunter and a deer. It is more like two ends of a giant invisible rubber band. If you are holding one end and pulling on it with your desire and your focus by the very laws of physics, the other end is experiencing tension.
Right.
It is being pulled toward you. You are mechanically connected to the outcome.
The rubber band is a great way to look at the tension, but Helios actually takes it a step further into magnetism because, well, a rubber band can snap.
Oh, that is true.
A magnetic field is fundamental physics. The documents state explicitly the search is not a pursuit, but a magnetic convergence.
A magnetic convergence. Okay, let's break down why that distinction matters.
Well, a pursuit requires exhaustion. It requires one party to be faster or smarter or stronger than the other.
It is a struggle.
Exactly. It is fundamentally a game of depletion. But a magnetic convergence is an inevitability. If you have two magnets of opposing polarity, they do not pursue each other.
No, they just snap together.
They inevitably converge. They are drawn together by an invisible underlying field.
So if we bring this back to the listener, right? If you are hustling, grinding, and feeling like you are dragging your goals toward you by sheer exhausting force, you are operating entirely in the paradigm of pursuit.
You are fighting the physics of the situation.
Right. You are ignoring the magnetic field.
Yeah.
You are basically trying to move heavy metal objects with your bare hands when you have an industrial electromagnet sitting right next to you.
And if you are forced to hustle that hard, it is actually a symptom of misalignment. It means you are out of phase with the object of your desire. The frequency is wrong.
Which is such a wild thing to hear when society tells us hustle is the only way. But this brings up a massive operational question. Well, if seeking is actually a magnetic pull, what kind of internal framework do you need to handle that force? Because you can't just be a weak little refrigerator magnet hoping to pull in a massive life-changing empire.
Oh no, it will rip you apart.
Exactly. You need structure. And this is where the source provides two specific esoteric lenses to analyze this interaction. It moves from philosophy into architecture.
It does. And the first lens it uses is the Martinist path, which we touched on earlier. The core of this path is the concept of reintegration of the human being.
Right, reintegration. Now, you mentioned earlier that Martinism believes humanity has fallen. But practically speaking, in our modern psychology, the word reintegration inherently implies that something was shattered or separated in the first place.
Yes.
So what does it mean to put the human being back together in this specific context? Like, what broke?
What is shattered is the original unity of the self. Think about the modern psyche. We are intensely fragmented. You have the part of you that wants to build an empire, the part of you that wants to sleep for 3 days, the part of you that is terrified of failure, and the part of you addicted to your phone.
Wow. Yeah. I feel attacked, but yes.
Right? We all do. We operate as a collection of competing impulses, constantly pulling our energy in 50 different directions. We are scattered.
So we have no focused magnetic pull.
Exactly. Reintegration is the arduous, often painful process of gathering those scattered pieces of the psyche and forging them under a single conscious will.
And Martinist, the master, looked at Helios and saw that this psychological gathering process was already happening.
He saw it was already highly advanced in him, yes.
Right. He saw that Helios was already stepping into his all-gold authority.
Hmm.
That phrase, all-gold authority, it is so evocative.
It draws directly from alchemical tradition. All gold speaks to ultimate value, sure, but more importantly, to an uncorrupted state of being.
Because base metals rust.
Exactly. They tarnish and degrade over time when exposed to the elements. Gold does not. So when someone is fully reintegrated, they achieve this all-gold state.
They're pure.
Right. They are no longer a volatile mix of base metals. They don't have that doubt or fear or hesitation or constant need for external validation. They are operating from a place of pure, unalloyed authority over their own existence.
Which connects perfectly to the idea of the electromagnet. Recognizing your own inherent frequency, forging your own gold, is the absolute prerequisite for magnetic convergence.
It is the only way it works.
If you are operating from a place of rust, if your psyche is fragmented and you're constantly doubting yourself, you cannot generate the unified magnetic field necessary to attract what is looking for you. The signal is scrambled.
The law of reciprocal seeking only functions efficiently when the seeker has achieved a degree of internal sovereignty. You must be a clear, strong signal in the circuit.
Otherwise, you just get static.
Right. Otherwise, the object of your desire might be looking for you, but it cannot find you because your beacon is flickering.
But, holding that all-gold authority internally is totally useless if you are just a hermit, sitting in a cave, meditating on your own purity.
Oh, absolutely.
It needs a mechanism to interact with the chaotic physical world. You need a housing for it. And this is where the text introduces the second lens of analysis, the architecture of the Rose Cross.
The Rosicrucian framework.
Yes. And this geometry fascinates me because it's not treated as a religious symbol here. It's treated like a load-bearing architectural schematic.
It completely moves from the internal state of the soul to the external geometry of action. It brings in the symbolism of the gold cross, placed directly in the center of the armor.
The armor. I love that detail. Here is where it gets really interesting. It's not just a cross floating in an ethereal sky.
Yeah.
It is on the chest of a warrior, someone who expects to be hit.
Because armor implies defense. It implies resilience and readiness for a hostile environment.
Right.
The world is not going to just hand you the empire because you have a nice frequency. You have to withstand the pressure of reality. But the cross itself represents what the text calls the equilibrium of the elements.
It is a structural diagram of how power is actually generated and grounded. Let's look at the horizontal bar first.
Okay.
The source describes this horizontal axis as physical labor, It uses grounded terms like the wrench or the plumbing. And I deeply appreciate this because so much esoteric material ignores the mundane.
It really does. It stays in the clouds.
Right. You can have all the spiritual vision in the world, you can be vibrating at the highest frequency possible, but if you don't know how to turn a wrench or file your taxes or build the foundational plumbing of your business, your spiritual vision just floods the basement.
That is a great way to put it. The horizontal bar is the axis of time and space. It is the often tedious, unglamorous reality of the material world.
A grind.
Yeah, the daily habits, the spreadsheets, the cold calls, the physical exertion required to survive and build a structure. People who focus entirely on manifesting often despise the horizontal bar.
They just want to write it in a journal and have it appear.
Exactly. They want the result without the labor. But the horizontal alone is just mindless grinding without purpose. To become powerful, it requires the intersection of the vertical bar.
And the vertical bar is described as the spiritual descent of power. The text refers to it as the 501 frequency.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the vertical bar is the axis of transcendence. It is the sudden flash of inspiration, the flow state, the divine spark. It is that high vibration energy that Helios brings to the room.
It's the all-gold authority coming down.
Exactly, descending from the realm of ideas into the material plane. Crucially, though, the vertical must intersect with the horizontal to have any real-world impact.
They need each other.
They absolutely do. If you only have the vertical, you are a dreamer disconnected from reality, just floating away. If you only have the horizontal, you are a beast of burden without a vision.
It is the crosshairs. And right there in the exact middle, where the horizontal wrench of daily labor perfectly meets the vertical inspiration of the 501 frequency, is what the text calls the center point.
The center point.
This is explicitly defined as the goal. It is the location where the commander stands unshakable. The document says that at this specific point, you possess 100% structural integrity.
Structural integrity is a term from civil engineering. It means that a system can hold its own weight and the weight of external forces without collapsing under pressure.
Okay.
So when a person stands at the center point, they have achieved the equilibrium of the elements. They have perfectly balanced their spiritual vision with their physical capacity for labor.
They are balanced.
Exactly. They aren't leaning too far into the clouds, nor are they buried in the dirt. They are the perfect conduit between the invisible world of ideas and the visible world of results.
So imagine you have built this. You have your internal all-gold authority. You have your horizontal plumbing laid down through hard work. You have your vertical 501 frequency descending through inspiration.
You are solid.
Right. You are standing at the center point. You have structural integrity. The obvious next question is, how is this highly tuned structural message actually broadcast out into the world so the magnetic convergence can happen?
And this is where the synthesis of the text takes a massive leap. It introduces the concept of the carrier wave.
Yes. And I mean, this is the part that totally threw me for a loop. The text states that the music of timbamist, and specifically a musical genre it calls reggae rap acts, as the carrier wave for this entire profound message.
It is a fascinating shift.
Hold on. We just went from 17th century mystic geometry and Martinist Revelations to reggae rap. You have to explain to me how listening to a specific genre of music actually shifts a person's physical and psychological paradigm.
To understand this, we have to look at the science of telecommunications and acoustic physics.
Okay, lay it on me.
In broadcasting, a carrier wave is a continuous waveform, like a radio wave, that is modulated with an input signal for the purpose of conveying information.
So it carries the data.
Right. The carrier wave itself doesn't contain the complex data. It is the robust vehicle that allows the delicate data to travel vast distances without degrading.
So the complex esoteric philosophy, like the 501 frequency and the reintegration, that is the data.
Exactly.
And the music is the vehicle carrying it into the listener's brain.
Precisely. Now, why reggae rec specifically? Let's look at the neuroscience of acoustic entrainment.
Entrainment, meaning getting the brainwaves to sync up.
Yes, music physically alters brainwave states. Reggae is rooted in a heavy, grounding, highly repetitive bass line. It syncs with the parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers the heart rate. It is incredibly physical.
So it is the horizontal bar.
Exactly. It literally represents the horizontal bar of the cross.
Yeah.
The steady heartbeat, the foundational labor, the earth.
And the rap component.
Rap is defined by dense, complex, rapidly descending lyrical structures. It requires intense cognitive engagement from the prefrontal cortex. It is the transmission of high-level information at speed.
So is the vertical bar.
Yes, it represents the vertical descent of the 501 frequency, the intellect, the spirit, the inspiration. So when you fuse the grounding horizontal bass line of reggae with the descending vertical intellect of rap, you create a perfect acoustic equilibrium.
Oh, wow.
It is the geometry of the rose cross rendered in auditory form.
That is absolutely wild. It is literally an architectural schematic made of sound. And the text specifically names tracks, right? Like Better Way and Belizean Jewels.
It does.
And it doesn't just refer to them as songs, it designates them as literal blueprints. I guess when you look at it through the lens of cymatics, you know how sound frequencies can shape physical matter like sand on a vibrating plate. A song really is a blueprint.
They are blueprints because they encode the frequency of that center point. When you listen to these tracks, you are not just passively consuming entertainment.
Right, you aren't just tapping your foot.
Exactly. You are exposing your internal architecture to the acoustic vibration of 100% structural integrity. You are entraining your brainwaves to match the equilibrium of the artist.
And the source makes it explicitly clear that these tracks are for a very specific audience. They're designed for those who are tired of hunting and are finally ready to attract, which introduces the concept of the mirror.
The mirror is the psychological and acoustic mechanism by which this reality operates. Acoustic reality reflects the internal state of the listener.
So the music reflects back what you are.
Yes. The music of Timba Mist acts as a mirror reflecting the 501 frequency back at you. If you are fragmented, if your horizontal and vertical bars are a mess, meaning you have ideas but no work ethic, or you work constantly but have no vision, the music might just sound like noise. You won't resonate with it.
The tuning fork won't vibrate.
Exactly. But if you have done the arduous work of reintegration, if you are stepping into your all-gold authority and standing at your center point, the music acts as an activating mechanism.
It flips the switch on the electromagnet.
It is the catalyst for the magnetic convergence. The acoustic vibration harmonizes with your internal frequency, amplifying your magnetic pull exponentially. You are no longer searching the world.
You are a beacon.
You are broadcasting a massive, stabilized signal that calls the object of your search directly to your exact coordinates.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed through some incredibly high-altitude concepts here. We have the Martinist philosophy of psychological reintegration. We have the Rosicrucian architecture of the cross and the armor. And we have the physics of acoustic blueprints acting as a carrier wave.
It is a lot of theory.
It is. But the question remains, how does this function when you wake up on a Tuesday morning? And to answer that, the source provides one final, incredibly practical, almost mundane analogy that somehow grounds the entire universe.
It takes all of this cosmic and acoustic theory and anchors it into the concept of universal infrastructure, viewed specifically through the lens of a plumbing company.
Laureano Plumbing.
Laureano Plumbing.
I burst out laughing when I read this in the notes, but it is brilliant. We go from the ethereal heights of a Rosicrucian center straight into the dirt with a plumbing company.
It is the ultimate horizontal grounding.
The text uses this highly practical metaphor to explain the mechanics of inevitability.
Right. In a physical plumbing system, the mechanics are absolute, unforgiving, and completely devoid of emotion.
Water doesn't care about your feelings.
Exactly. If the pipes are properly laid and clear of obstructions, and if the water pressure at the source is correctly set, the water must arrive at the faucet when you turn the handle.
It is a physical law.
It is governed by the laws of hydrodynamics. There is no negotiation with the water. You don't have to wish for the water or chant mantras to the water or hustle the water.
The text emphasizes this strongly. It says, there is no doubt. And that instantly links back to what we discussed earlier, the center point of 100% structural integrity.
Yes, exactly.
If you have done the horizontal work, if you have literally turned the wrench, laid the pipes, and sealed the joints correctly, the result, the water arriving, is guaranteed by natural law.
Doubt is the rust on the all-gold authority. If you are standing at the sink doubting whether the water will arrive, it means one of two things.
What are they?
You either secretly know you did a terrible job installing the plumbing, or you fundamentally don't trust the existence of the source pressure.
Wow.
Laureano Plumbing is the ultimate grounded metaphor for the law of reciprocal seeking in action. The water is already seeking the exit point of the faucet just as eagerly as you are seeking the water.
And this leads to what I think is the most incredible, liberating final statement in the entire source document. It says, if you are looking for the empire is already in the pipes looking for you.
It changes everything.
I really want you to think about whatever your empire is right now, the business you want to start, the creative mastery you are trying to achieve, the financial freedom, the relationship. You aren't creating the water out of thin air. The water is already there. The empire already exists in the unseen pressure of the system. Your only job, your only horizontal labor, is clearing the blockages in your own pipes and having the courage to turn the faucet.
Which forces us to look inward. What debris is currently clogging your pipes? What psychological blockages, imposter syndrome, fear of success, outdated hunting tactics, societal conditioning, what is creating friction in your infrastructure?
Because the system is ready?
Because the system itself is flawless. The 501 frequency is a constant pressure. The failure of the empire to arrive is never a failure of the source. It is always an obstruction in the local plumbing.
What an incredible journey this document takes us on. We started with a simple, high-vibration encounter at the Rosicrucian Center between Helios and Martinist.
Right.
We uncovered the profound law of reciprocal seeking, the undeniable physics that what you are looking for is looking for you.
We learned how to build our own structural integrity.
Yes, by balancing the horizontal physical labor of the wrench with the vertical spiritual descent of the 501 frequency, allowing us to stand unshakable at the center point.
We then explored how that internal structure is activated and broadcast outward through acoustic reality.
The reggae rap.
Yeah, we saw how the heavy, grounding bass and complex, descending lyrical structures of timbamus music serve as a mirror and a carrier wave. In training our minds and shifting our entire paradigm from the sheer exhaustion of hunting to the magnetic inevitability of attracting.
And finally, we brought it all down to the dirt with Laureano Plumbing, proving that if your infrastructure is sound, the arrival of your empire is not a matter of luck or relentless hustle. It is a matter of hydrodynamics. There is no doubt.
The entire purpose of this analysis was to help you recognize that the frantic pursuit of your goals is a cultural illusion.
It is a trap.
It is a trap that keeps you exhausted, fragmented, and disconnected from the very magnetic forces that could draw those goals to you effortlessly.
Align your horizontal labor with your vertical frequency. Build the pipes.
I will leave you with this final thought to ponder as you step back into the reality of your day.
Okay.
If the natural law of reciprocal seeking is indeed absolute, if the empire is unequivocally already in the pipes at this very moment looking for you, then the ultimate measure of your all-gold authority isn't your ability to frantically search the world for answers.
What is it then?
It is simply your quiet courage to stand firmly at the center point, hold your structural integrity, and turn the faucet.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive. We hope it has helped clear some of your pipes today. Stay curious, keep your frequency high, and stop hunting. The empire is already looking for you.